Hey, what's going on, everyone? Brian here. Wanted to take a minute real quick and just discuss a concept that I'm really trying to live out right now, and hopefully that'll help you. And it's just the idea of facing your fears, overcoming fear, and turning fear into faith so that you can continue to move forward. I know that for a lot of people, no matter what they do, everyone has fear. And a lot of times fear holds us back. Fear is obviously irrational and definitely makes us do things and makes me do things that aren't in line with my values and aren't really in line with who I want to be. And so I just want to take a minute to tell you about my experience, what I'm going through currently, and hopefully it can help you. And so the backdrop for this is I want to talk about a book that I've read quite a while ago, but it's had a super big impact on my life. It's very inspirational. I know that for anyone that's going to read this book, if you choose to, it absolutely can be a powerful experience. And the book that I want to reference is called In a Pit with a Lion on a Snowy Day by Mark Batterson. Now, Mark Batterson is a pastor in Washington, D.C., and don't let this book fool you. It definitely has a biblical context, but the context for what he talks about and the principles that he talks about in terms of unlearning your fears and making your fear become faith, they're universal principles. So I absolutely can promise you that this book will have an impact on your life. And I really like the concept of the book. It's all about this guy. He's actually in the Bible. His name's Benaiah. And his claim to fame is that he actually chased a lion in a pit on a snowy day and killed it. So I don't know about you, but most people, when they face a lion, they're probably going to be pretty scared. And most people, probably every person except for Benaiah, is not going to chase after it. So, regardless of what you think about the Bible, I think that's awesome that that story is actually in there. So this is the context that Mark uses to address this idea of, chasing your dreams, and in the process of that, facing your fears and allowing your fears to become faith. And so it's really interesting what he says. I just want to read a couple quick sentences here from his book and just give you an idea of how this applies to my life and hopefully how it applies to yours. So he says, faith is the process of unlearning your irrational fears. Definitely agree with that. And he says something interesting. He says, he's talking about the idea of being a lion chaser, someone who, looks at fear and stares it in the face and continues to pursue their dream even when they're afraid. He says, but they have unlearned, he's talking about lion chasers in general, but they have unlearned their fears that kept them captive. And they all did it the same way, by chasing their fears instead of running away from them. They exposed themselves to the very thing that they were afraid of. And I think that's really important because it is so counterintuitive for me or anyone else to actually run after your fears, because fear paralyzes us. This is really evident in my life right now. Eventually Mark goes on to say that, as you expose yourself to those fears, you just said it there, as you expose yourself to them, you gradually start to build up an immunity, and you actually start to turn fear into faith because you've gone through the experience enough times to know that you can come out okay on the other end. And that's something that I'm definitely dealing with in my life right now, just chasing a fear. And honestly, it's the reason why I started Kindle publishing. Me and my wife, we got married a couple years ago, and she was a teacher, and we just had our son. His name is actually Benaiah, as influenced by the book that I just talked to you guys about. But we made a decision that we thought was most important for our family, and that was for my wife to pursue her dream of being a stay-at-home mom. And that's great. I'm super happy that she gets to fulfill that. But it leaves us with an extra $3,000 to $4,000 a month that wasn't coming in. And so it's part of the reason why I started this business. But even now, my Kindle business, which you can watch the other videos about, what that is, it's not where I need it to be yet in order to produce the income. Now, I have a job as well, but my job is 100% commission sales. So I don't know if I'm going to make a ton of money or very little. And sometimes I'm at the mercy of what's going on in my specific industry that dictates where my sales are. Now, I certainly take responsibility for the results in my life. I'm not making excuses, but I'm in an industry where it goes up and down, and that's just the reality of it. And so it's put me in this position where, I don't know what the monthly inflow is going to look like. I'm not broke, and I have some money in savings, but to approach every day, especially being someone like myself where I used to have such a tight grip on my finances and I knew where every single cent went. Well, not only did my wife leave her job, which I'm thrilled about that she gets to stay home with our son, but on top of that, we have a newborn. And of course, you guys know that newborns and babies, they're not cheap and they cost money. Now, that's certainly just one aspect of it. I love my son so much, but it's scary. It's scary to face these fears for me, knowing, what's going to happen. But what I've slowly started to learn is that as I expose myself to that fear, mentally, I can actually feel the fear come in, and I actually can choose to not focus on that. I can choose to have faith. Now, does faith require me just to sit there and do nothing? Absolutely not. But at the same time, having faith starts by making a choice. And that's the choice not to listen to the fear, not to let that, emotion that sits in your heart, that kind of stabs you in the heart, that's what fear is, not to let that take a hold of you, because that's when, especially like someone like myself, I can spiral out of control and get depressed about it really easily. And I don't want that. I'm trying to support my family. I'm trying to be a strong leader for my family. Not that I shouldn't show weakness or emotion, but there's no reason for me to let fear control my life. And so, I don't know if there's what the application is for you, but I just want to encourage you to expose yourself to a little bit of that fear. Maybe not the whole thing, but just a little bit, and allow yourself to go there. Because what's going to end up happening is that as you expose yourself to it more and more, you'll start to get immune to it. You'll start to notice the fear. You'll start to notice what you actually tell yourself when the fear comes in. You'll actually start to tell yourself maybe more positive messages. Maybe you won't go down the path of fearing and making an irrational decision, or, maybe jeopardizing some of the relationships in your life because they're controlled by fear. And so that's really what I want. So however that applies to you, I hope that you take that and you just start to take those little steps of faith, because what will also end up happening is you'll find out that if you're still breathing, you're good. You can make it. And so as you face those trials and temptations down the road in your life, you'll be able to see that you've been able to push through and make it, and things have been okay on the other side. So I hope this is encouraging to you guys. Continue to watch these videos. I hope it helps you. Please let me know if it helps you, and let me know what else you want me to talk about. So hope you guys have a good day, of course, and we'll see you guys in the next video.